Former Secretary of State for Trade Peter Lilley said the EU is full of non-negotiable demands and insisted it does not want a trade deal. Mr Lilley told RT UK the British people and the European people ought to be disappointed because it's hard to see that the European Union are really negotiating in good faith if they constantly put off any start to talking about trade. Who can you decide what sort of implementation period you need before you decide what sort of trade agreement you've got? Mr Lilley said the European Union has failed to justify why it plans on discussing the transition period at the start of trade talks. Getty RT UK former Tory MP Peter Lilley said the EU has no intention to get a trade deal. They don't ever justify anything, they just put down a set of non-negotiable demands. Peter Lilley Mr Lilley said the EU fails to justify anything it does in Brexit talks. He said they don't ever justify anything, they just put down a set of non-negotiable demands. I'm afraid it's time that we responded in kind and said, I'm sorry and this is how we think it ought to be done unless you can give us a good reason why it should not be done in that fashion. Mr Lilley said Britain must assume the EU has no real intention to gain a trade deal and the UK must prepare for no deal. He said we would still like one. We are here and ready to talk to you throughout the remaining period of negotiations, but we are planning for World Trade Organization terms, i.e. the same basis as American, China, Japan, Russia, everybody else. EU leaders agreed on Friday that enough progress was made on key Brexit issues in order for the second stage of talks to begin. The EU insisted the UK must agree on its relationship with the bloc during the 2019 to 2021 adjustment period before discussions on trade can begin. The President of the European Council Donald Tusk said that Brexit means the UK will be stripped of any of its rights while it remains in the single market during a transition period. Mr Tusk said, as you know, the UK has asked for a transition of about 2 years while remaining part of the single market and customs union and we'll be ready to discuss this, but naturally we have our conditions. I propose that during this period the UK will respect the whole of EU law, including new law, it will respect budgetary commitments, it will respect judicial oversight and of course all related obligations. Clearly within the transition period following the UK's withdrawal, EU decision-making will continue among the 27 member states. Without the UK, all of what I have said seems to be the only reasonable solution, and it is in the interest of all our citizens that it is agreed as soon as possible. This is why I will ask the EU leaders to mandate our negotiator to start these talks immediately.